hold honest conversations about life, relationships, challenges, and everything in between, with unfiltered discussions with real people, offering their authentic stories, experiences, and perspectives. No topic is off limits and no story is too small. Join us on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming to you again today on December 29th with a podcast, Be Honest, on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. I am Dr. Yana with Dr. Sherry, was incredible Dr. Sherry, and we have a special guest, Tatiana Berman. Tatiana is a violinist and immersive artist who consistently pushes creative boundaries, both as brilliant musician and accomplished painter, whose paintings are sought after by collectors from around the world. Founder of the Constella Arts, she is the creator of The Power of Sound and Not So Classical, and also she's a star of the documentary called Forte. Tatiana's unique projects brought her to some of the most iconic venues, including Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and could you please pronounce that word for me?
Yeah, Elbphilharmonie.
Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg.
Yes.
Welcome, Tatiana.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Not only that, Tatiana is all of that, an accomplished and successful. We're going to talk about success today. Successful person, successful woman, successful mom. She's also my incredible cousin, for which I'm so proud of. And today we are going to talk about resilience and success, the meaning of it, and what do we eat it with? Let's go, guys. So, how do we define success? Does anybody know how we define success?
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment, I guess, right? What are other words for that?
Achievement.
Achievement and accomplishment, and I think fulfilling what your abilities are. That's success.
Yes.
Desires, wishes, and hopes.
Well, it depends. I think it's success is an interesting concept because for every person out there, success means different things, and also in different areas of our life we can be successful, and it doesn't mean that other areas of our lives are successful. So it's a very fleeting concept in a way, but I think the general if we had to generalize, basic meaning of success is a perceived achievement, right? Achievement and accomplishment, that someone has the perception of having accomplished things and achieved certain milestones.
You know, guys, what is so interesting to me that when we perceive ourselves as a success in a certain area or a failure for that regard, right? Not achieving our goals and not realizing our plans, some other people think that we are so successful and we have achieved everything in our life, and they're just sitting there and feeling so bad of themselves when they don't even have any idea what stands behind success. It is not just we wish for something and then we immediately get it. So I was also there, in fact, when I was seeing you everywhere on the media. You're here giving concert, you're there giving concert, you were so publicized everywhere, and your incredible photos and the projects that you had done. And I was just a simple professor, as a sort of myself, sitting there teaching my students, preparing my lectures and all. And my cousin was everywhere, and I'm like, it is so incredible I admired you so deeply.
Oh, thank you. But I think I cannot even tell you that, on the other end, it's all that you see on social media, especially. I think it makes it very difficult for people to actually see things for what they are, because social media is a representation of just tiny little moments that are in fact kind of a generated image, right? I mean, this is what social media is about. It's a generated image. And when you say that, obviously, first of all, I really hope that you did not think that you're just a simple professor, because I think you're an incredible woman who is one of the wisest people I know,
Thank you.
and an accomplished, an amazing, gifted person as well. And so it's not really we cannot ever compare ourselves to anybody, first of all. And another thing is, yes, again, social media and the image, especially with people who are performers or public figures, it's always an image of something that we are projecting in order to convey things and move our mission forward, and make sure that our projects are realized and moved forward. So in a way, I don't think that has much to do with success. It's really to do with marketing and visibility and staying visible. And this is just a part of a profession, so it's a different type of profession in a way, because we have to stay visible and we have to make sure that we are on people's minds, because in order for us to we can create things as artists, but we cannot really exist without the feedback from our audience in the end. Whether you're a visual artist or you're a performing artist, which I'm both, and so you have to have the feedback in a way. Although they have been known people who actually create and they don't really think about what feedback they're going to get. They just create because they can output and they have the creative vision. In any case, I think the social media has, in my mind, not much to do with success. It's just a perception, and it really is a lot to do with marketing and a certain image that is created in order to move forward certain projects and your work forward. So
Absolutely.
but it does, but I think you're right, it in a way actually affects people more negatively than positively, because there is in our culture right now, it's quite prevalent that people have a certain comparison of themselves with others, with these sort of created images and videos and posts, and a lot of it has nothing to do with reality, and yet many people don't know better, and they start comparing themselves with that perceived image, and that is a very sad reality, because it makes us more lonely and more insecure with our own abilities, because yeah, that's the negative side of social media. So
But then this way we can talk about the misconceptions of the understanding of the success. How do we understand it? How do we perceive it? And how do other people perceive us? It's, for example, that I was saying that I saw you so successful, incredible, and I was so proud of you. You at the same time said that you were not just a simple professor. What is a simple professor?
there is
It's
never such, it's a misnomer, isn't it? Because you cannot be a professor.
and be so simple.
You cannot possibly become a professor. I'm
It's
not
a
sure
very
I
subjective experience. Success.
Because success, that's
It's an
right.
outcome, so it's subjective, and it differs between each individual. And Tatiana's so right. Social media is just a small glimpse into a person's life, and usually it's not even their complete life. It's just a small piece of the puzzle of their life.
That's so true. And if we think of this concept of success and the misunderstanding of it sometimes, I believe that media affects us so incredibly in this sense, in a bad and a good way, defining success in our lives, right? So we should be striving for something that perhaps that we're not. We should be seeing other people achieving their enormous success without even knowing what stands behind. And sometimes the success is just of some people, it's just a pure constructed image that has nothing to do with abilities, with gifts, and the actual success. We should also understand that. And like you said, there's not one simple professor out there, although I've seen some simple ones with simple thoughts.
Depends what level you're looking at.
That's right, that's right. And what we're teaching and everything. It is also what stands behind while we can be so modest. And I guess just the further you go in life and the more obstacles you overcome and more dragons to conquer and the more mountains
To climb.
to climb on,
Yeah.
I think we become more humble. And with that, the humbleness also goes that I'm a simple professor. Although for that simple professor, there are also the years of education, books and books and books, no Netflix for that reason, no parties, nothing. There's essentially no life for all that time that you achieve your doctorate degree. And Dr. Sherry is going to second me on that and agree with that because we hardly had any time to party or even think about the party. What was Netflix? Every time we would look at the TV, which says Netflix, in our mind, there's big letters, caps set. You should be writing. You should be writing. You should be writing.
It follows
So
you where you go.
yeah, it follows where you go. So how do we achieve that success? Well, first, I believe that we need to have a meaning behind our activity, the meaning that drives us to the places that we want to be. If we don't have a meaning, we're going to just going to become complacent and sit in one spot, not doing anything. And there are plenty of people like that because they think that that success, in whatever sense that it uh, is just a concept achievable for just a certain number of people.
I think it's there are a lot of misconceptions, but I think if it was to second what you're saying, I think in any profession, from what I've seen in my life, people who are successful generally don't overwatch, let's say, shows or over going to parties. They go to very specific things that mean something to them, and they do things to always develop themselves, and there's always self-development going on. So instead of, let's say, Netflix, people read books or they listen to an interesting podcast, or there needs to be a kind of a goal. There's always a sort of a goal or a meaning behind why you're doing something. So basically, in the end, it's a kind of a more aware way of living of why you're doing something. So in the end, that makes you more successful because all the little things that you do during the day in a way contribute to the overall um, goal or your mission, or like what you're about and how you're fulfilling what you have, let's say the gifts that you have. So I think that a lot of successful people who I know, everything that they do, it has a little bit more awareness than the general population, and that is why they're successful, because they are aware of their actions at any given moment. And if, let's say, you are relaxing or doing something, you are doing that because you choose to do that at that time, but there's a time and place for that. And again, when you're building something, like when you're doing a doctorate or someone is building their company, or I'm working on a large scale project, yes, there is very little time for other things. Yet, if you don't consciously also take time to recharge, it doesn't need to be partying. In fact, partying takes away your energy, right? But if you constantly take time to recharge, that actually contributes to your success and contributes to you being more creative and more productive in whatever it is that you're doing. And so I think it's very important to definitely take time out, but there are certain parts of our lives where we cannot afford to even do that very much, but hopefully not for too long, because it's not good for your health and other parts of your life, which then become not successful if you do that too much. Right. So yeah, I was just also thinking that over the years, success changes, doesn't it? For we were talking about right now is more kind of a maybe work success or your job or work or your creative um, output, but I think that it also changes over the years. Like the priorities change, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I believe that the success, the understanding and the meaning that we give to the word success, of course, changes over the years. But at the same time, for different people, success means different things. And for whatever goal that we try to achieve in life, there is the certain personal narrative that we pursue our entire life. And from that single narratives, I believe narratives stem different branches of personal realization. And this way we can also achieve success in those areas as well, the areas of interest. However, the success does not have to be on a grand scale. It depends on your vision and the goals that you want to achieve in life. It is absolutely possible to be a successful mother, for example. And if a woman just wants to be a mother and nothing else, it is such a difficult thing to do. It's a 24-hour job for many years up until your children leave your house. And they're good moms, and those who devote themselves to their household, to husbands and children, they can really um, express themselves in a way that the other women can't, who also have children. So for that, it is a successful woman. It is success. She accomplished herself as a great mother. And we're not going to go to the archetypal psychology, but the role of a mother is very, very important. So if you are just stay at home mom and you express yourself to the heights of your potential and you're happy with it, then this is a success. This is a definition of success, because many of us cannot even do that. And if you're a professional woman, sometimes you don't have time to do and care for the kids that you would like to be, and that creates a source of stress as well. So how do we go from goals in our lives from one to another? How do we balance it all? It's not an easy task. And of course, for example, for me, success changed over the years with the goals that I set for myself. I remember that I just recently opened up one of my journals, and something that what was that, about 20 years ago, for the New Year's, when you write all those resolutions, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And I found it and I looked at it and I said, oh, I've accomplished everything that I set for that year. And that felt really good, because when we set the goals, and we follow through and achieve those goals, then we feel much better about us. We realize our wants and desires. And then once those are achieved, you set yourself new goals.
Well, I mean, I think that you are one of the few people that I know that can say that about yourself. I am one of those people where I don't think I've ever achieved everything on my list.
It was 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago. Since then, it changed.
Every year, you know, I actually started being much better in recent years of not writing so many things, because it's not really about how many things, it's about the meaning. You know, how you feel a sense of accomplishment and you actually enjoy the sense of accomplishment versus just feeling like you haven't done half of the things that you have planned to do. So I think it's really wonderful to have those goals. I think not everyone is also, there's another side of it, is that not everyone is ambitious, not everyone is driven. And for some people, personal success, you're talking about motherhood. I mean, motherhood is the biggest job and it is the hardest job. It's not paid and it's mostly, sometimes it's not even rewarding at times, but at times it's the most rewarding job. And most of the time, actually, it is wonderful and rewarding, but there are times where you struggle because it's just tough. There are certain situations and you learn a lot every day from these situations and being constant for your children. But I think for some people, especially if you don't have children or you are not ambitious, success is more in the realm of realizing some sort of potential that you are given, and it's a kind of a personal little goals, like let's say staying healthy or being a great friend to your friends, or supporting your family, and things like that are also very, very important. And I think we mustn't forget that it's not really always about just achieving and getting things done and getting better. I think it's just kind of living your best self, how I would put it, and in a way, and also being very careful, like when you are on the way to achieving things and realizing projects and realizing your skills, that you don't neglect other areas of your life, because we have our loved ones, we have the spiritual side of us, and we have the health side of us, which often get neglected if you're trying to achieve something. So it's very important to, for me, the highest form of success is when everything is sort of kept in balance. That is something that I strive for, and I don't think I have ever yet been to a place where I feel like all of the successes in all of the areas of my life I am successful in.
Hold on, it's coming when you're 100 years old. When you're 100, maybe that will happen.
It's not. I don't think it's about that. I think it's just we humans, we want to achieve. We want to achieve it, and we want to just be in that place. But it doesn't work like that, because there's always the next thing, and there is always this sort of a feeling of, oh, okay, what's next? This is great. Now it's good, but what else is out there? What else is next? So it doesn't stop, because in the end, this feeling, it comes from within. So you kind of have it, but it always comes in waves. That's what I feel like. It's always the wave. There's the next wave. So yeah.
And it is a process, right? It is a process.
And that's actually the most important thing, isn't it? It's the process of it. It's not sort of like, oh, I've achieved it now. Now I'm done. Everything is great. It doesn't work like that. That's not the why we do it. I think we actually, the best thing is to enjoy the process, isn't it?
Yes, it's to enjoy the process. And I know that Dr. Sherry, she has worn so many different hats over the years, and she is very accomplished. And sometimes we're so modest, we don't think that we're accomplished, because we set new goals for ourselves and we go for them. And when I met her, you, Dr. Sherry, when I met you, when I met her, who am I talking to here? To myself? To me, myself, and I. So when I met Dr. Sherry years back, I was also admiring her for her resilience, determination, things that she was able to accomplish in her life. And then she set this big goal for herself to have a family. All I heard from her is just, I wanted a family, because she has already achieved everything that she wanted to achieve in the professional and personal life. And then she wanted children. And for some people, it just doesn't happen that way. Sherry made 2 children almost right away after she set that goal. Said, okay, I'm having children. And there, bam, she has
I was running out of time.
You were running out of time. It's like, okay, I have achieved it all, and now I need a family. And interestingly enough, while we can look at it and think that, oh, it is so easy, just go and have kids, right? No, it is not so easy at the time. And sometimes, not sometimes, actually most of the time, people encounter serious problems, even conceiving. But what is the meaning? What is the meaning behind it? So Sherry had everything, and then she decided to have kids. And she had them. She has this incredible 2 beautiful girls. And not only that she is accomplished chef, her French cuisine, Dr. Sherry, Tatiana, you should have seen, you should have tasted the way she cooks.
Wonderful.
It is incredible.
That is success.
That is success. That
but
just by itself, it is a success, Sherry, right? Just by itself.
it is, but I agree. Success is a staircase, and there's a lot of people out there in the world like us who are ambitious, and I think the list never stops because that's our purpose. It gives us purpose. And again, like you said, you don't have to write everything down because it's in our actions. When we show the world, that's what we, it's we can talk till the cows come home, as that little saying goes, but it's in our
True.
actions that we display our success, the outcome of our desires, wants. It's
It's made me think about something because I was trained since I was 5 years old to kind of push myself every day because the violin training. I was trained as a soloist since I was 5, and we had to practice quite a bit. And sometimes it comes through tears, sometimes it's just through sort of not wanting to see the violin ever again. And sometimes, and then there are other days where you feel amazing and it's all great. But sometimes you spend hours with it. And but the point here is this: what you just said. It's interesting. It's this. It's not even. Yeah, it's like a staircase, but it's something that might be helpful to any person out there. It's doing something every day that pushes you just outside your comfort zone, because a lot of people think that, oh, that's up here, I can't even begin to do that because it's already
Absolutely.
somebody's up there.
Mhm.
But actually all it takes is every day you do something that pushes you outside your comfort zone just enough, not too much and not too little. Because if you push yourself too little, you don't really get anywhere. If you push yourself too much, then it will be too hard and you will give up straight away. That's why a lot of New Year's resolutions don't work, because people set themselves unrealistic goals. You have to actually look at it as a long-term project. It's better to set goals for the whole year and then spread them out in steps versus doing, okay, this month I'm going to fast, I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to do weightlifting, I'm going to be like doing everything.
I'm gonna kill myself the first week of January.
Not gonna work. You will give up. So the best way I find for anybody who's doing anything at all, you just push yourself just enough so that you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You feel like you have achieved something, but not too hard, because you will be giving up after a few days, because you will be just thinking, okay, it's too hard. But if you don't push yourself outside, then also again you don't grow enough for you to notice, and that will be discouraging for you to go forward. So that's just something I've learned, and that's made me think when you talked about that.
Yes. Let every day be a new year. Why does it have to come down to the end of the year? Folk try to do something good in your life every day, even if it's something very small, even
Yeah,
if it's
and
the smile at
because
your
it's easier, because in a way isn't it funny? I mean, you are the psychologist here, but isn't it funny? It's a human nature where we do things that are easier short term, but actually not rewarding at all and not good for us in the long term. But for some reason we end up doing that. It's sort of a human nature. Maybe there is fear behind, maybe there's insecurity, maybe it's just pure. I don't know that many lazy people, actually. I think it's always to do with fear or insecurity of starting something or pushing yourself, or maybe not knowing that that's a possibility.
I
So
agree.
it's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, we have indulged ourselves a lot into self gratification, because feeling uncomfortable in pushing yourself does not feel comfortable at all, guys. Play of the words, it doesn't feel good. Pushing yourself, pushing your limits, it just doesn't.
But you know why? Because when you don't do this, when you do this from young age, for example, like I have done, when you feel uncomfortable, you after a while you learn that there is this phase where you push through, and then it feels great because you have accomplished something. You feel more confident because you have achieved this kind of your own, you have gone through the difficulties, and that stage is what a lot of people, if I think everyone was taught this when they're younger, I think we would have a different society, because a lot of people give up before getting to that phase, and that's the secret. Because it feels uncomfortable, right? You don't want to do it, but actually the best part is just after that, when you went through, you pushed through that project and you're resilient, and you accomplish something, and you're like, oh, I actually liked how this feels. It feels like it's me, and I have realized something difficult. And so that's the secret, I think.
It is the secret, and science actually seconds you. Science supports this claim. Interestingly enough, however, in our society, we like self gratification. We like feeling good. We don't like to feel uncomfortable. We, as soon as we feel some sort of sense of anxiety, we run to the doctors, like, oh my God, like I need to have some medicine, fix me, do something about it, because I don't want to feel anxious when that anxiety actually pushes you forward. I was so surprised by observing how things are in our schools here in the United States. To me, it went completely against what you just mentioned, because in sports is always competitive. Life is damn competitive, but somehow we in the United States here we reward children for just participation. I could not understand what is participation. Why do we need to reward anyone for participation? It doesn't give any stimulus to anybody, to children especially. Like you mentioned, you have to do that from the very early age. And if we don't do that, if we reward children for just participating in order not to make them feel uncomfortable, or God forbid, uncomfortable, right? And just feel inferior in some way to other children, then they don't progress. They don't progress. And as parents, we want our children to feel good and nice and comfortable and self assured. But in fact, we work against it. And when they grow up and they go into this dog eat dog world, they think, oh, how come I'm not being supported in this? How come? And this is exactly how come, because we need this competition in life. We need competitive sports. We need to know how to push ourselves in order to achieve whatever that we want to achieve in this world.
You have to work hard. I think without hard work, success is just doesn't. You can't attain success without working at something. I think
But
Tatiana
yeah.
has mastered the skill of resilience. Absolutely, you're a great teacher of that.
Well, perhaps, but it just also made me think that we are, I think all three of us, we look at it from a perspective of people who have gone through things. We are resilient. We have, let's say, achieved certain milestones, even though sometimes to be, to be, what's the right word? To be honest, I went through most of my life. Not, I have had quite a bad imposter syndrome and all sorts of things where I did not actually feel that what I am achieving or doing or what it looks like from outside. Did not even remotely feel like this for most of my life, and only now I'm learning, in the last few years, to celebrate success, to enjoy it, to enjoy the moments that are
And the
achievements.
small steps that you
And
have achieved.
yes, and the large ones as well, because I
Exactly.
don't think
Especially.
when you are brought up kind of with this idea of always bettering yourself, it's difficult to enjoy the actual accomplishments. So that's just, and it's interesting. So what I was going to say is that with the three of us, we do have this resilience, we do have this mindset of ring, but not everyone. Again, it's not like this for people, and the participation is an interesting phenomena. It is it's not only in the US. I think it's a kind of a way we are going where we reward children for participation, but I think it's, again, yeah, I agree.
Is
I
that in the
think
Western world?
yeah, I think it's a Western world thing, but in some ways it's all right. But I think it's almost like not everyone has to participate in everything. That's number one for me. I think it's actually better if the children are suited for something and then they enjoy it better and they can achieve better results in terms of, like, they feel more successful in it. If someone just participates because they have to participate, that's another side of it, is that it's not necessary. They might as well use their time doing something that they actually enjoy and become better at that. Basically cultivating your actual talents and being recognized by merit is long term much better for mental health for everyone and their values. This is one thing I was going to say, is that when you have that approach, just the participation approach, the values that the kids grow up with are different. And on top of that, as you said, when they go into the real world, they realize that doesn't work. You don't get rewarded for participation most of the time. That doesn't even do anything. Anyway, it's just something I was going to say, that I thought of that not everyone is like this, and merit is much healthier in the end, because it's harder at the beginning, but it's healthier in the end. So
Well, like you said, that we have to take action. Taking action, I've noticed myself that sometimes I become complacent, and sometimes I just do what the feels good, instead of I know that I have this project that I have to start working on it. But nevertheless, binge watch Netflix. I eat ice cream and I indulge in this incredible yummy foods, and that can go day after day. And I understand what it is. I understand. And the fact it is that I start to stagnate when I do that. And not necessarily that from day to day we have to be pushing ourselves all the time, but we have to be able to take the step forward. And it doesn't feel good. And of course, that it pushes you out of your comfort zone. And we're creatures of comfort. And in order to push ourselves out of the comfort zone, you have to make an action. You have to take action. And Tatiana, you're absolutely right. It's taking action. That's where it all stands. That's the secret of taking action. And then, like my brother Stanislav Lazishny, he is a spiritual teacher in Minsk and Belarus. He said one incredible thing which helped me over the years. I heard his lecture. He didn't tell it to me directly, but I heard his lecture. I'm learning from my brother. He said, when you do something, do not think about the outcome. You have already set your goals, you made a plan, and then go with a full action into it without attaching yourself completely to the outcome. Otherwise, you'll be setting yourself for failure. And that's where the perfectionism will come. This is where the procrastination will come. And I learned and I thought, this is the secret. And I decided not to attach myself to the outcome too much. Yes, I want to do my best. I want to strive for perfection and for success in what I want to do and accomplish. But at the same time, letting go of the outcome is has helped me so much over the years.
it's wonderful. It's that whole process of the journey as well. That way you enjoy the actual process much more, and that enriches your life. It's sort of this awareness of being in the moment versus striving for something at the very end of the road, which sometimes becomes something else by the time you get there. And that's another side of it. It's very interesting. And working hard, Sherry, Dr. Sherry, you said that working hard is really important. I very much agree. I think that's another thing. Nothing really comes from working hard. People think sometimes that I think social media perpetuates this myth that things are easy, especially now we have AI and you can just go and get this going. You have the funnels, you have the business ideas, and the AI will do everything for you. It still requires a certain skill, knowledge, understanding what it actually does. It's not going to do things for you if you don't know how to use it. If you, it's not going, nothing is going to happen if you don't put in the work anyway. But over the years, one thing I have uh, slightly changed with that saying. I think that working smart is also very important. That's another thing with success, because we don't necessarily need to work hard all the time, and working hard by itself does not necessarily bring you results or success. That's an interesting conundrum, right? Because it should, but doesn't. It has to be, you have to also step back and reflect. That's one of the other key elements, I think, of successful people is you have to take time out and reflect on what you have done. Maybe that's something that doesn't work anymore, things you would like to accomplish next, maybe long-term planning. Some people are better visualizing things than others, so maybe some people are not in a situation to visualize long term. But in any case, I think one of the most important things to me, which I have learned over the years, is to reflect and to self reflect on what doesn't work, what works really well, what I'd like to happen, and try and see what's going to, what is it that I'm aiming for long term. And so, of course, the life then throws everything at you that completely changes everything. But
Yeah,
it's a wonderful, wonderful way of sort of, it's a good exercise to know yourself better and understand what you are about in a way.
absolutely.
Sort of take an inventory, of course, at least once a year, but the new year, because that's how we the started celebrating New Year, and then we attributed all this importance to this time when we start the new year with new thoughts, ideas, good wishes, things to discover, achieve, to better ourselves and to better our situations, of course, because we're the creatures that don't want to strive, don't want to live in bad situations. We want to strive in good, positive ones. So that is very interesting. But at the same time, uh, the time of your birthdays is very important. That's when you take the inventory as well. At least I do that. And for me, it does happen. It has helped over the years. I remember, again, I would quote my brother, he would never celebrate his birthdays. And I never attributed too much of the importance to my birthday. He would always say, "Congratulations with yet another time when you reevaluate your life and move forward with better intentions and leave behind what you don't need, and reevaluate your values." This is how he would put it. And I started doing that. And to me, it's several times a year when I take this inventory of what I need and what I don't need, to let go of things that are not serving you well. Because if we accumulate everything over the years as we live our life, emotions, people, objects, things, everything, and hurts and problems, and we don't take inventory, how are we going to move forward in life? It's very important to burn the dead wood in your life. And then the new sprouts are going to come with a new life, new ideas, new perspectives, and new strengths to move forward. Because, Tatiana, you mentioned that you have to invest in self care, because otherwise it's not going to be possible. For example, just 1 week ago, I had a terrible emotional burnout. I had a physical burnout, emotional burnout. By the end of the year, I was essentially dead. And I put myself, like, I sat on the couch, like, and I exhaled, and I couldn't move any longer. And I needed a break. But why push ourselves so hard? We have to be able to take the rest in small increments in order to move forward in life. Otherwise, we will burn out and not accomplish anything that we want, or even lose the desire to do anything.
Yeah, I think balance is very important, or we enter a free fall. And I think taking an inventory or self-reflection, in addition to specific times in your life or your year, I think it's also important. Anytime you feel a disturbance, even if it's something small, it's good to reflect and do a self-inventory. What's causing this disturbance? What limitation am I giving myself that's preventing me from attaining the success that I'm seeking? Because a lot of times we hide behind that unconscious fear of failure.
And that's a great point. I think I've had many instances like this, and
Give us the example.
well, yeah, because sometimes it's actually physical. Even your health, your body will
Hmm.
tell you you have either tension, or you have some kind of a illness that's recurring, or there is a kind of a feeling of something not quite right. Our bodies are always trying to tell us, because they carry a lot of emotional baggage as well, and so sometimes it manifests in certain illnesses or things that happen, and it's interesting to learn that, like, I didn't really think about this when I was younger. Nobody taught me, right? But in the last few years, I learned. I kind of feel much better and much more aware of what my body is trying to tell me. And I think in our culture in general, people try to push down. Like, let's say, if you're feeling sad, then you go and get antidepressants. If you're feeling a little bit of a cold, you really want antibiotics straight away. But actually, most of this is not really fixed by that. It's you have to work out what's really causing it, and a lot of the time you have to be able to be with your sadness. Let's say you have to be able to just live through the cold, because it's just a cold and your body is strong enough to fight it most of the time with most people. And yeah, it's I think it's important to be tuned in to your own inner world, because that is what makes your life, you can control the quality of your life much better, and quality of like who you are in your existence in a way. Because if you are tuning into your own desire and your own inner world and what you actually have to offer, that makes all the difference, I think. And for me also very important, that a lot of us, we don't realize sometimes that we want things, right? Sometimes we just say, I want this, I want this. But a lot of the time life gives us something else that we actually need, and the lessons that we have to go through.
Right.
Yeah.
And very often we think we want something, but in fact we focus on ourselves. And what I find really contributes to real success is not focusing on what necessarily you want as a kind of an ego of yourself, but why are you want to, let's say you want a lot of money, right? If you just want a lot of money, that is not success. If you want a lot of money because you want to make a huge difference in the world, you want to help, sick children or animals, or making environments safer, that is why you should want money, right? So if you have, for me, success is wanting something, but having a mission to serve other people, other beings in our planet. And that's to me is like the highest definition of wanting to achieve things. Because in the end, if we just are all very selfish, it's also worse for us. And on top of that, life works this way, that you're not going to get there that way. You're not going to get what you want, because you just are all about yourself. So that's another very important, I think, trait of success, another side of success to me, that really defines it. That, for example, this conversation we're having, for me, it's really important that maybe there will be a few phrases out of this podcast that people will take away, and they may help them. They maybe will discover something new, or something that about themselves, or maybe something will be helpful and resonate with them.
And this is the goal, to be honest. This is the goal of this radio show, to be honest. I know that one of your projects is to bring classical music to children at schools.
Yes, for the longest time, when I first came to America, I studied in England, and then I lived in America for quite a while. And I was quite surprised that the first things that always get cut down in schools with funding is always art and music, which is now, with all the studies out there, it is the best thing for children to develop their actual inner worlds and personalities. Music and art. No matter how you look at it, sports are very important. Yes, physical, definitely you have to stay in good shape, and it builds team and resilience and things like that. But music and art develop your brain, your whole emotional resilience, and really good traits, and also helps you to study better in other subjects. And yet it gets cut down first when there is no funding. And so that's one of the things I had quite a where I lived in the US. I had a program where we went to schools and gave concerts for free in different schools where arts funding was not as freely available. I haven't done this lately as much, because right now I'm focusing on the power of sound and how it actually affects us. So I'm doing a big research and musical project that is resulting in a new album. And that is all to do with for us to kind of stop and think and be aware of how sound affects our well-being, and even psychologically, and how it actually sometimes makes us do certain things which sometimes we're not even aware of. So it's an interesting concept for me for many years already. Everything from noise pollution to the type of music people listen and how it affects them, and even how it affects us on a cellular level. And I'm also interested in an ancient way of healing. So thousands of years ago, how they used sound to heal people, and in what way um, they utilized the waves quite differently from what we're doing now. So yeah, so that's the kind of work I'm doing at the moment, because that's what's coming to me. So I'm composing as well. This new album will have mostly my new compositions with my wonderful friend Michael Cheney Wills, who's a composer as well. So we compose together. So I'm very much excited about this project and can't wait to bring it. The single is actually coming out in January. So I'm doing a little
Nice.
plug here.
Can't wait, can't
So
wait,
19th
can't
of
wait.
January, yeah, there's going to be a single called Ascension, and it's coming out as a single and also as a video, 19th of January. So,
That is wonderful. Well, we applaud and we are happy and we
Absolutely.
can't wait to hear.
thank you.
Well, what I hear from what you do, those projects, they give you intense sense of meaning and accomplishment.
Fulfillment in a way.
Fulfillment,
Yeah,
exactly,
it's
fulfillment. That's the
exactly
better
that.
word.
Yeah,
And that's how you derive the meaning. And that meaning is pushing you. So if we look at that, and if some people would just look at you and say, oh, this is her life, this is her professional life, this is what she was set out to do from the age of 5, like you mentioned, right? Then for us, we didn't start so early. It could be so difficult for us to do it right now. And yet, you did not come to those projects 20 years ago.
no, and I think it takes like a whole life sometimes. There are people who have created some of the famous artists. They haven't even started painting until they were 50. There are a few
40s,
really
50s, right?
well-known composers too that, like for example, Charles Ives, he was an insurance salesman all his life. And I think when he was 40 something, he composed, one of his first great big symphonies. But what I was going to say is, any person, it's not really, I mean, within our profession, yes, we start training really early. But having said that, I haven't always had the traditional path of a soloist, because I did a lot of other things. I had my own festival. I like to paint. I've always painted since I was a little kid. And I, it's a path where you have a lot of sometimes there are moments of low self-esteem. There are moments of doubts. Is this what you are supposed to be doing? Is this is it doesn't, so the sense of fulfillment, it's a kind of again, it eventually becomes more and more constant if you keep doing something, and you keep doing something that actually you feel like it makes a difference to others. I think, and also something that sort of makes you grow. I think that in my case, this is what I believe. And for people who haven't yet discovered what that is, my advice is always the same: is you gotta first of all sit down with your thoughts and tune in and really feel, is there a passion? Is there something that makes you feel even remotely sort of, you want to try it? At least you want to try it. That's just you. It's a question of sitting down with yourself and asking the question, okay, what would you, if I had to try one thing, what would it be? If I'm like something, like I'm sort of, I don't know if I like it enough, but I like it, try it, go try it. So the main thing is to go and experience those things. And then once you feel like one of those really makes you kind of like, gives you a little bit of butterflies, or it makes you feel excited, then start working at it. But not for like a week, but work on it for a few weeks, or maybe a few months, and maybe a few years, and then see if that's your thing. But the main thing is to take action and to go and experience it and try it out. And that's also success, because that's how you bring out, maybe you were not encouraged to bring out your own gifts, your own talents when you were younger, right? Sometimes some parents don't know how to do that. They don't know how to encourage their kids to experience everything. Maybe people are busy. Maybe they have they have to work a lot, and the kids don't really have that encouragement of exploration. So when you're older, I find this a lot with all the adults who come to the concerts where, the concept where creative not so classical is because I'm introducing older people to classical music because there's a lot of misconceptions around it. But actually, anyone can listen to it, and this is the paradox, right? It's a beautiful thing, and so my point is to if you are not introduced to certain concepts as a child, now is such a wonderful time. You can Google things, you can research things, you can go try out things, and it doesn't really have anything to do with money. Actually, it has to do with the there are so many things that are available for free as well, and even free courses online. And so it's really about a question of desire and going and trying new things. I think that's what propels you and gives you a sense of meaning.
We are having such an incredible discussion. And I absolutely love it because that is not only helping us to talk about it and understand ourselves, but also for the audience, for those who listen and who view us as well. And we are coming live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM. This is Be Honest podcast, and I'm Dr. Yana, and this is Dr. Sherry, and our incredible guest, Tatiana Berman. I know that long time ago, you played in the Buckingham Palace for the Queen of England. And Tatiana, when she mentioned it to me, she's like, "Oh yeah, I played for the Queen of England,"
Well, it was
and that was it. And that was it. Like, you played for the Queen of
well,
England?
it was a while ago. I was quite young by then, so I don't really,
Like,
it's not really a recent accomplishment. It's not a recent accomplishment.
it brings to light what you were saying, though. Like, success comes over time, and when we're younger, we don't even realize oftentimes that we understand that we're good, but we have that doubt. It's like, oh yeah, I did that. But
Well, I think it has to do with a lot of different things because specifically in my case, I think I had quite a bit of what's the right word? How do I put this gently? I did not have the most positive reinforcement in terms of professionally. So I was taught in a quite not self, but it was quite a negative way of working through things. So there was never like, oh, that was amazing, well done. It was about like, okay, well, if it was good, nothing really was said, but if it was bad, everything was said about what mistakes were made and things like that. So it was a more of a negative reinforcement. So that's something that I had to overcome in my life because realizing that there is another way to look at things and reinforcing the good, and yes, commenting on the things that need to be improved, but not in the context that is the thing you need to focus on. And so things like playing for the Queen of England, that was a very long time ago. I was 16 and I got this opportunity. Luckily, I was a soloist with a Bach double concerto. We played for a fundraising event at the Buckingham Palace, and it's a wonderful experience. And already then I did know that is a very special honor to be able to do that. And I tried to do my best, and that was that for me. But it was over, and that was that. We move on to the next experience. And so, as I said, when I was young, I wasn't able to really enjoy the accomplishments as I do now, because now I realize the value and I appreciate and I'm grateful for things, and it's a very different, much more enjoyable life experience actually. But that's something that some people who have steady upbringings already kind of have it built in, and others who have a slightly sort of my experience was quite different because I lived by myself pretty much since I was 14, and my mom died quite young, and so we learned that over many years sometimes, and let go of things and realize things and teach ourselves things. So it's a wonderful journey, and I'm really grateful for the opportunities and for life in general, like having life. And I'm just really grateful at the end of this year, I must say.
And we're so grateful for you as well.
absolutely, yes.
In those adverse childhood situations, they are in fact become the plateau, well, not the plateau, but that we reach the platform that sets us off onto this journey of life. and sets the stage for us achieving things that probably people who were so comfortable in their lifetime, in their childhood, in fact, and in a lifetime, um, cannot achieve, and they lack resilience. And this is what happens, that we have to have some sort of adversity when we're little. And of course, for our children, we want everything best. But to tell you the truth, knowing that about building resilience and having not having everything when you are young. In fact, my family was very well off when I was a child, and we could have everything. But nevertheless, it was not really the conditions of my society to have everything that you could ever imagine, because you have to be diligent. You had to be working, not at the job, but you have to be working on your projects since the very early age. And yes, we were not so praised for our accomplishments, but exactly, we have very similar childhoods. But when something went wrong, oh, definitely we would have known about it, but then nobody pat us on our head or just say, oh, great job, you did it fantastic. We didn't have it. And we're talking about this path to success, but nevertheless, it actually stems with a lot of adversity when you are a child, and it is absolutely okay. That is why with my children, I did not attempt to give them everything that they ever wanted, even if I had the every means to do that. I didn't do it. You want this? You know what? You're going to have to work for it. uh, you have to prove to me that you are capable. You have to finish your tasks. You have to finish the projects that you do. Show it to me that you really want it, or go work or make your own money from the very early age. And actually, that helps children a lot. If we shield them from everything in this life, they are going to grow up really weak individuals. I remember that one of the examples of that was one woman that I used to work with. And she came to a workplace, actually, just started working when she was 55. She was 55 and she was wearing I don't have anything in this ugly Christmas sweaters, although, why are they ugly? I don't understand ugly Christmas sweaters. But she would always wear the sweaters, such with innocent little bears, kitties, puppies, and she was like really that innocent woman. And she was 55 years old, and she seemed so much older, like this old, fluffy, nice grandma. And once she told me that, oh, but I'm much younger than your mom. And I thought, that is so interesting to me. And she told me that she had a really incredible life. She had a great childhood, and then she married nicely, and then she never had to work a day in her life, and had her children. And that was the first time that she decided to start working. And that woman at 55, she could not even count money, meaning that it wasn't thousands and thousands of dollars that she needed to count, but it was like in the realm of 10, 15, $20. And that was really difficult. And she was always not handling it properly, and always being in the deficient in the funds at the end of the day. And we had to tell her that this is not the way to do it. You have to be really diligent and watching what you do. Guess what happened? The woman had a heart attack. And because that was her first adverse experience in her lifetime, she never built any resilience. And that by just telling her that she failed to do something consistently, for her, that was such a hit on her psyche that it couldn't bear it any longer. And she had a heart attack, which was, she was okay. It was a minor one, but then she stopped working altogether. So by not building that resilience in your life, by running away from adverse situations, but sometimes we're born into that. We're born into wealth. We're born into just good situations in life. And our childhood is perfect. Our youth, adulthood, young adulthood, everything is perfect, is given so easily. We never have to do it. But nevertheless, the more adversity you have, the more things that you have to overcome, the better you are as an adult. In childhood, better you are as an adult. And I firmly believe in that. What do you think about it, Dr. Sherry?
I agree. I think resilience is a skill. It's a skill set. So it's something you can build upon.
Yeah, the other side of, I think, lack of resilience, um, if you don't have those experiences, I think it's also like the low self-esteem, for example, some people have. I think it very much comes with the lack of resilience because they like relate to each other, and if you it's almost like people start setting themselves up for failure before even um, what am I trying to say? So basically, resilience is it's like if you have low self-esteem, it's sort of a chicken and the egg situation. If you are not resilient, then the self-esteem goes down. But then if you don't build up your resilience, if you have a low self-esteem, then you probably have low resilience as well. And so that's a kind of a tricky situation. I'm
Absolutely.
going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate because in a way, yes, if you're born into, you have everything, you have things and you have means, it still doesn't mean that you have like a happy or sheltered life in a way. Because I mean, I know people to come from money, and it's not really about money. We're not talking about money here, but let's say the overall perception of if you're born into a well-off situation, 10% of the population, like let's say the top 10, um, we're very lucky that we have things. We have things enough to function well. We have every like all the face wash that we want, and the right kind of outfits and things like that. Even if it's not high designer fashion, still we have everything to live well, right? But it still doesn't mean that you're going to become resilient, and some people are and some people are not. It also very much can happen in a very healthy family. So there's like the other really nice side of it. And I only know a few people like this, but it's not really to do with money, but it's to do with the fact that there was a healthy situation in a family. It can even be a single mother, it can even be a different type of family. It doesn't have to be mother and a father situation. It's not even about that. It's somehow some people, parents mostly, manage to bring up kids in a healthy, resilient way by um, making sure that they have this sort of motto of trying new things, of being open to pushing themselves a little bit every day, things like that. So I have seen it, and whenever I see that, and the person may also come from money, it doesn't really mean anything. But I have seen those success cases, and I always feel so happy inside because it's like it's so nice to see people who come from these healthy environments where their head is screwed on their neck in the right way. And it's like it makes me happy usually because it is possible to also create that. But of course, adversity does force you. What adversity does is forces you to do it. But there are other ways of being resilient. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
True. And I will elaborate on that just a little bit. If we look at children who were brought up in good situations, financial situation, and uh, with parents who are not abusive, and that they create a nice environment for children to grow up nicely and peacefully and happily. At the same time, if we look at that, why parents are so successful in creating children like this and seeing that for them to grow up having this resilience, in fact, to some degree, is that because in my experience, parents had experienced adversity at some point of time in their life. And we're trying to give our kids the best that we can. Nevertheless, understanding that the life is not all that sweet, nice, fluffy thing uh, that we see behind the rose tinted
Yeah.
glasses, eyeglasses, that we understand it. And that is why we bring our kids up in a way to understand the reality of life and not being confused by just participating in life. You get paid, right, just by participation in school activities, right? Nevertheless, somehow you can get in at the school, you can get the worse grades than others. How come we don't give our children all the same grades by just participation. So I think that could probably be the next step in our society, don't you think? With everything that the in the direction that we're headed right now,
We'd be in trouble if that happened.
we'll be in trouble. But
Yeah.
we're headed. Looks like we're headed in that direction.
Well, I mean, basically, I think it's a question of all of these different possibilities for resilience definitely exist, and the main thing is to remember, that it does build confidence, and you are more connected, and the sort of the more aware the kids are being brought up. Like at the moment, I'm going through a phase with my youngest daughter where I am getting her to ask herself what she feels, because she has a habit of sometimes when she is experiencing something new, she asks me what to do or what it is, and how what do you eat it with, right? When of course sometimes we have to introduce them to things and we explain, but at times I'm now stepping back. She's in this age which is really interesting, and I tell her, I said, what do you feel, what do you think, what do you feel? And that is one of the ways to teach them about like what their body feels, and how, so to tune them into themselves a little bit, because as kids they sometimes are being told all the time like what to do in school, being told what to do by the teachers, by the coaches, and very often I think we have to always remember for the kids to make sure that they ask themselves how do they feel, how what would they like, and that's something that I think is not happening enough in my experience. I look at things around, and very often we dismiss them as people who don't yet understand. But actually, kids understand so
Right.
much more, and they would do much better, and their confidence levels would be much higher if they're given a chance to actually express like their own feelings and their own desires.
And take it an action.
And then they can take the action that they feel is right for them from earlier age,
And
because
you're
actually
teaching them to be present. Like by being present with
exactly.
your children, you're teaching
Yeah.
them the importance of presence.
And I think, I mean, maybe it is also for boys, but I think for girls is very, very important, because a lot of the time when they're a bit older, they end up being less and less like, kids, girls very often are taught to be good and to not take as many risks and to be kind of, this girl thing. But I think it's very important to make sure that they have, what are they called? The risks, calculated risks. That's one of the things for girls that I've learned from raising girls, is to make sure they take calculated risks, because boys, they just, they will run into a fridge, from early age, and they don't care, and they just move forward very often, and they just take risks. But for girls, it's important to make sure they have opportunities for calculated risks, and let them do it, and let them, find out that it hurts, or it's like not good for you, or something happens out if you do it. That's what that, yeah, it's like it builds resilience too, because they discover it for themselves.
Yes.
And that with the resilience, it's just the words that we've been using. But at the same time, what is the resilience, right? It's the everything. It's a competence. It's a self assuredness, and then connection, then to ourselves and with other people. It's building the character, uh, coping mechanisms, control, and also the meaning that stands behind of everything. And the most important thing I believe in success is, like you mentioned, Tatiana, working smart, and is perseverance. Perseverance worked miracles in my life, because I remember one of the examples, when I actually was working on my doctorate, and what I'm trying to tell people is that it can be so difficult when you are trying to achieve something. It is not going to be so easy. And we need to understand that, because we are going to have to sacrifice a lot for what we want to have. There's always sacrifice. Nothing we get in this life without a sacrifice in some sense. We can't have it all. I remember working on that. So I was working full time, and also be sort of, we're never part-time moms. We're always full-time moms. Being a full-time mom, and going to school also full-time, working on a PhD. I remember that a friend of mine, one time she's like, "Oh, you're not coming to a restaurant with us. You're not going for drinks, and we're just gonna stop inviting you at some point in time because you always say no." And I said, I can't do that because I don't have time. And then that friend of mine said, "You know what? One time she had too many drinks one time and she called me at midnight and she said, Yana, I'm so jealous of you I'm like, for what? It's midnight. For what? Are you okay? And she finally was able to tell me what was on her soul and her heart. And she said, I envy you for your looks, your intellect, for your ability to accomplish things and achieve what you want. And to that, I told her, you know what? I know that I understand that you probably had a little bit too much of wine. Let's talk in the morning. And the next day, I had to tell her that you probably don't want my life because it is so difficult. While it seems it's an easy thing, easy peasy, absolutely. You go to work and you put on your face, your professional face, then you come home, you put a face of a mom because nobody wants to see your ugly, nasty, frustrated face from work, right? And when you're so tired, you put on a face, nice face, and you talk to your kids. And then you put on another face of a student because you need to produce all those papers to participate in discussions and everything like that. And when you have to do your homework at night, when do you do that? You do it when everyone goes to sleep. After you finish your workday, after you took care of the kids, after you put everyone to bed, and then at night you do your homework. And sometimes I did my homework till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And then I have to wake up in the morning and go to work again and to classes at the same time. And it was so difficult to do, but I was on a mission. It gave me meaning. And I said, you know what? While it may seem a little bit of cruel, I don't go out. That's actually the reason why I don't go out. I don't have time to have drinks. Yes, maybe I should probably go out and distract myself a little bit, but then I would lose the time on sleep or time with my children, or I'm not going to do the homework that I have to produce, all that papers. So I said, I can't. And at that time, she did not, and I tried to uplift her too, because she wanted to create her own business. And I was there with her, cheering her up and said that, yes, you are going to open up your business and life will be much better. However, there was never a desire for any action. And that was a lot of eating and a lot of drinking for the person. And I said, as long as you do that, you will never accomplish anything. So that is a perseverance of first taking the step and multiple steps and sticking with your goal. And for that, you have to be a killer, meaning that you have to be able to kill those tasks and activities that are not serving you well.
Yeah,
And that is, it's soul, it's sweat and tears. It's sweat and tears and lack of sleep. And that's what you set yourself for when you are trying to accomplish something. And that is the reality.
self-discipline.
Self-discipline, absolutely. And through self-discipline, we get the sense of self-respect. And from self-respect comes self-assuredness.
It's very important to not compare our insides with other people's outsides. Don't, that's what your friend was doing. So that's just to put it out there. It's important to be
Yeah,
self-aware.
it's like when we were starting to talk about at the beginning. The social media, I think, amplifies it a lot, and we just have to stress that it isn't reality. It still isn't, and it's, as much as a lot of people are on it, it's absolutely not what your life is about. It's just a little glimpse, and it's a piece of an image that you see of someone else.
But then again, in that documentary Forte, in which you're featured with little Alina as well, it shows that the life is not what it all is, right? You put up this fantastic face to the world, but behind it, there is a lot of work that needs to be done.
It's a good movie actually. It's called Forte, and it's about the three women and the three different definitions of success in the world of our world of music and art, and how different success can be for those women. So it's a very relatable movie, documentary, and one of the protagonists actually writes the score for the film, which is really unusual. so I've never seen it done before, but it's during the film. So, and it's our stories, and I think it's a really good movie for anyone to see, and even for younger girls and their moms, because it sort of makes you feel like things are achievable, because it isn't always like black and white, and it's not about, oh, you are either successful or you're not successful. It's about a journey. It's about this this self-discipline. Yes, at times we have, maybe we're better at it, maybe we're worse, but it's about waves and the process and the whole journey of the whole life of development and growth and interesting opportunities and setbacks at the same time, and knowing how to overcome the setbacks. Something that we haven't talked about yet is that, we are talking about resilience, and that is part of resilience and perseverance. Is if you have a setback, for example, when I was younger, I don't think I knew very well how to handle that very well. I felt bad about it, right? So I had a setback, and because a lot of the things around me were quite negative, said in a very strict and negative way about mistakes and things like that, I didn't know how to handle it, so I felt bad about it. But the older I got, and the more I learned and read books and talked to smart people, I feel much better about setbacks, because every time something goes wrong or something I haven't planned happens, and it's really uncomfortable and frustrating, sometimes even dangerous or something, or health related, I think, okay, this happened. What am I going to do about this? Can I change something? Can I change it for the better? Is it in my capacity to change it? I'm not going to be sad, or I'm going to waste energy on it unless I can do something about it. And sometimes there is nothing you can do. You have to sometimes just accept your mistakes. And that's another thing that's a very important learning curve if you want to be successful, is sometimes you just need to accept there was a mistake. And sometimes mistakes can be quite large. You have maybe been investing in something, your energy and time, and even money, and sometimes you just have to let go, even if you feel like, oh, but maybe it will work out. Things like that are very important, to cut to cut things when they don't serve you. So anyway, I think that that's a really important aspect, is where you fall down, how are you going to get up from it, and what are you going to do about it? And sometimes it's acceptance, sometimes it's changing course, sometimes it's something where you can fix it and then move forward. But a lot of the time, it's very important to know the different ways of overcoming obstacles. That's, I think, it's a very, very important thing, like in my life, how to, like, learning how to actually overcome the obstacles, and learning, knowing that very often, most of the time, there are several options, so that there is never, a thing where, like, there's just nothing you can do. That there's always one or two options, and sometimes even several. So that's a really good thing to know.
While it is very good and extremely fantastically poignant point, at the same time, ladies, we should also remember that what kind of society do we live in? The position of us as women in the society. I, over my life for the past 20 years, since the time that I had my first child, I would always lack time. I would lack time to do my own projects. And for that, it was very frustrating to me, because I had so many projects in this life that I needed to do. And nevertheless, I could not bring them to fruition. And why? Because I had children, I had a family, and as a mom and as a wife, I had to care for my loved ones. And at the same time, while I was married at the time, my ex-husband would go to work, and he would be all that important person, at the head, not the head of the department, but one of the important people at the department, right? And he would be working on this incredible projects, such interesting projects. And while I was also working on my master's and then a PhD, and also working, that they gave me the meaning, nevertheless, I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and to write books and be published. And for PhD, it's very important to be published, but nevertheless, it was so difficult because you rarely have time. And I was thinking about it, and finally, having a degree in literature actually helped me a lot because throughout the ages, ages. I'm not that old. I'm not that old, guys. Through ages, throughout the years of my life, I was looking and reading the biographies of famous women over the centuries, right? Over the centuries of women, the classical writers and not so classical, like your company, and not so classical writers. And I would realize that most of the women that we know of right now, most of them, not all, most of them, they did not have families. They could be married at the time, but they never had children. And that gave them so much time and energy to pursue the goals and be fulfilled on their quest of life. And that gave me actually understanding and peace of mind and peace of heart, because I thought, you know, they didn't have children, but I have the greatest joy of my life. And I gave life to this incredible two children, and they will continue life, and the legacy is going to live through them, through grandchildren, and so on and so on. And it is such an incredible gift that we can give as a gift of life. And yes, while it was so difficult with children, nevertheless, look at us, ladies, look at us. We are still accomplished. We are successful in our understanding of success. Because, like at the beginning, I said I was looking at you, and this accomplished violinist, so beautiful to look at. And I thought, that is amazing. That is the definition of success, right? And not in a bad sense, because that was not any jealous sense at all. It was the admiration, because I couldn't do it. Well, what the most of our family are musicians, right? Nevertheless, I was not the one, and my brain worked differently, and I never wanted to do that. So, nevertheless, we are still doing what we need to be doing. And Cherry, your kids are small, but they will grow so fast before you know it. But you know what? You already accomplished yourself. You fulfilled the plan of your life before you even
I
had
have so
kids.
much more to accomplish, I feel. I mean, that's there. That's just another. That's my biggest accomplishment, I believe.
Yeah.
The
Children,
biggest
but to be
accomplishment is
I
our
think all
children.
of us, yeah, people who have children, I think that if you really had to ask them what your biggest accomplishment is, even if they are super achievers, they will always say
Absolutely.
their children, and that's a kind of, and it's a recurring theme.
yes,
You know, the ideal scenario, of course, is that there are a few, maybe less than 1% of women, and I admire those women. That's something that I admire personally in terms of success, is that if you have the right setup and if you do strive to achieve other things and you want to have children as well as family, then the my advice would be is to have a wonderful support system,
Support
whether
system.
it's your relatives, whether it's your, you know, a wonderful babysitter or someone, people who are constant in your life, who love your kids as well. And so where you are not there, you are achieving your goals, or let's say you're on the road or doing something else, that there are always people who surround your children who love them. And that is one of the secrets of the most successful women that I know, is that they have a very robust support system. And that's another thing actually with success, is that even if you're not a woman and without children, if you want to accomplish anything, as early as possible, get a support system going. Let's say a part-time personal assistant online or something like that. If you want to build anything, um, get as much support as possible early on. And then do the things that are the most important things. One of the very important things that I've learned in the last few years, again, is to do the most important thing every day. And think about that. It's an interesting concept, because very often we have like 200 things on our list to do, right? And we have all these things that we need to get done. Especially as moms, we have a lot of very small things, and there are so many of them. I think people who don't have children don't relate to this concept, but there are, when the kids especially are smaller, you have literally hundreds of little tasks for that day for the child, as a mom. And they over sometimes can be overwhelming if you're by yourself. But my point is that um, if you are trying to achieve something, let's say you have 3 hours and your kid is in the nursery, do the most important thing that you believe is the most important thing for you, that sort of moves you forward slightly in your own personal growth and your own personal fulfillment, or even if it's just for yourself, so you relax and just breathe, and or do some yoga or write in a journal, or maybe work on a tiny little bit of your project. That's what I really love about that kind of work. And yeah, that sort of makes your life more fulfilled and more successful. So it is possible with children and being successful, but you have to have a really, really good support mechanism.
Absolutely. With support mechanism going, and actually also having the accountability person who will be going on the journey of life with you. For example, I know that if I'm working on some project, Tatiana would be calling me and so shamelessly will be asking me, "Have you written so far? Like, how much have you written?" If I'm writing a book, she's like,
Sometimes I do that. Yeah.
How much have you written?" I was like, "Oh my God, she's on my case all the time. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to tell her. I better sit down and work so I could produce some content and be able and be honest when I tell her that I have done that." And that is very important. Um, and for us as well, to be honest, Dr. Sherry and I, we have this podcast in order to bring to people the ideas and advices from incredible people like you, who have the well of wisdom and knowledge to share with the world, with women and also men, people, and children at the same time, for which we are grateful.
And I'm grateful for, thank you for having me here. And it's been a pleasure. It's such a wonderful podcast. You guys are doing great work. It's important to have honest conversations. And actually, it's one of the another trait of successful people is that they are honest with themselves. And
Absolutely.
the more honest you are, the more you can move forward and accomplish great things. So thank you for doing this podcast. And I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And be honest with yourself is the most important thing. Find what makes you happy and go forward. And don't let other people define your success. Whatever makes you happy, that's what you should go with. This has been the podcast. Be honest, where we're always honest and we are not letting each other be dishonest. It's always honest. We bring the best in us and hopefully bringing you content and advice and understanding and wisdom that you can take from this podcast. We will be waiting for you to join us next week. Also on Friday on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM, where we'll be possibly meeting with another incredible guest, or it's just going to be myself, Dr. Yana, and Dr. Sherry. Thank you so much for joining us today. We had an incredible guest, Tatiana Berman. Thank you. And until we see you again, have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.